Welcome back to Mastering Excel. This is where we take requests for how to solve problems and try and show you ways to use Excel to achieve your goals. In this installment, we're going to take a look at how to analyze month-over-month inventory changes. So this is where you might want to know why your inventory value or part counts are changing from one month or period to another month. And this is a pretty common problem in both distribution companies and manufacturing companies. In this YouTube video, we're going to go over 3 different approaches on how to solve this. So the first one is what I call the quick and dirty approach. So basically, this is where we can just set up a simple way to kind of compare the balances month over month, but it doesn't really lend itself to doing a lot of sophisticated analysis. The second one is actually going to be leveraging PowerPivot to come up with the same analysis, which will be a little bit better, but again, it's still not particularly flexible and robust, but it will give you the answer and allow you to kind of analyze the numbers and get to what you want, the information you want. The third one is going to be us taking a deeper dive into PowerPivot and also using DAX. Now, this is going to be a much more sophisticated way of doing this, and it's basically going to give you a tool that you can use to analyze future months or past months or whatever you want to do. The background on this is the person who is tasked with doing this analysis basically has been provided 2 reports, one for month-end November 2023 and one for month-end December 2023. And these reports are basically part-level reports that have both the extended costs. This is an average cost environment, as well as the quantities on hand for each part, just kind of consolidated at the part level for those 2 months. So there was a big increase going from November to December, and so our user wants to understand kind of what parts cost-wise drove that increase. And then, as I mentioned, each one of these reports has the part ID, extended cost, and the units. Those are the 3 columns on each one of the CSV reports. So moving on to approach number 1, this is the quick and dirty approach, and this is just going to use the SUMIF function to get this task done. And as I said, the pros of this approach are, it's going to get the job done pretty quickly. It doesn't require a whole lot of Excel functionality beyond the SUMIF function, and it can provide the answer that we're looking for, although it's not going to go beyond just the basics. So the cons are it's not particularly flexible and it's not going to allow us to really analyze things in depth, but we can get to some kind of answer and clues to give us where to approach us deeper. So here we are back at Excel, and we've opened up our 2 CSV files. So on the left you have the December file, and on the right you have the November file. Now the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to move this November file onto the same workbook that the December files on. So here, that's just simply a right click here, and I can go ahead and make a copy over here onto my December workbook. So now I can close the November workbook. I'll enlarge this. So now you can see I have both of these. I'm going to change the name of the December to the summary name because I'm going to consolidate all the information onto this one sheet. Now, the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to save this as a normal XLS file. So I'm going to do that. I'm just going to call this month-end summary analysis. We'll save it as an XLS X file. Okay, so now we need to bring the November data onto here and then do the calculations. Now, just to make this a little bit clearer, I'm going to do some stuff with my headers here. I'm going to go ahead and center this, put on some borders, put a border here, and I'm going to want to put the month here, but I'm going to want this to go across the 2 columns. So this is December. Then I'm going to pull the November data to right here, and then this will be the summary where I do the calculations. Okay, so now I'm going to use the SUMIF function to go over to the November, the month-end November file, and pull over the quantities on hand as well as the extended cost. So that's going to be a sum if. So the first criteria here in the range is going to be over here in the November worksheet. So you need to have it look at this range over here, look down all the part numbers on the November file, and then I wanted to look up here on the December, the summary page, I wanted to grab that part number. That's what it's going to look at. And then I want to have it total up the quantities on hand here that are in column B. So when I hit enter, that should bring over my quantities on hand for this one part number over here, which is what it's done. So I want to lock down these references. So certainly the ones on the November sheet are going to be fixed. And then I'm going to paste this over one. So I want to lock down the criteria column. So I'm going to copy this over. Now I have to change this to column C because that's where the extended costs are. And now I'm going to put that format there and do the same thing here. All right, so we want if the number is higher in December because the inventory here grew in December, and I'll show you that in a minute. We want to have the higher number. We want it to be positive on this side. So here you can see in this one instance, it went down in December. So I'm going to have a minus number here on this one part, right? So now I can just copy this down. And basically, there you have it. So anywhere where there's a positive number in this variance section, you can see that is where the inventory went up. So you can see how much the inventory went up by looking. You can just kind of manually calculate this. So you can see that the inventory was 1,661,000 in November. And then in December, it jumped up to 1,954,000. Now there's pluses and minuses, but you can kind of get an idea here as to what the larger numbers are. Now, unfortunately, you can't just sort this list easily. If I go ahead and I try and sort this like you normally would, you're going to see I'm going to get a very unusual result, and it has to do with the SUMIF functions. So here I'm just going to sort this on the extended. Here I don't have any. Sort this on column G, and I want it to have the largest first, and then you're going to see this is just going to give us a weird result here. You can see we got some of the right numbers, and then we got a negative, and so using the sum if this way doesn't really work well. So what you're going to have to do is you can just take and copy the whole sheet, create a new worksheet, just do a paste special values, space special format. So there it looks exactly the same. Then I can just go to the bottom, do a sort again. From largest to smallest on our last extended. And there you can see. So these are all the biggest ones. So you can see that if you wanted to know, say, all the ones that were over $10,000, that would be these part numbers here. And so you'd want to go take a look at these parts. So you can kind of see this is a bit manual, and it's not particularly flexible since I have to do this pasting of the values. But as a one-off way of doing this, this is a very quick and dirty way of getting to the answer. So now we move on to approach number 2, and here we're going to use the power pivot capability within Excel to get to an answer. And again, this is going to be just kind of a one-off kind of solution, but it's going to be a bit more flexible. So we're going to take those same 2 CSV files, and we're going to consolidate them onto one sheet again, only this time we're going to be using a table. So we're going to have to put the dates that the reports were as of on the records of both of the different reports, and you'll see how that's done. Then we're going to go ahead and just multiply the units and extended cost times -1 on the November file so that when they get added together, basically the December with the November, we get the net of the two. So again, this is very straightforward. Gets us the numbers. It'll allow us to do the sorting automatically without having to create another table. But again, it's not super flexible. It only allows us really to look at the variances, and it doesn't really allow us to add in more data if we want to add in more months and do a more sophisticated analysis. But let's take a look. All right, so here we are back at Excel. So now what we need to do is we need to merge these two lists together, but we need to add the month-end date. So over here on the left, this first worksheet is the December worksheet. So we're going to insert a blank column here, and we're going to put in the last day of the year because this was effective as of 12/31/2003, and then over here this is for November, so we're going to do the same over here only for November. So we are going to put in 11/30/2023. So now we want to merge these two together. So I'm just going to copy and paste over here. Okay, so since we're going to want to create a pivot table with this, we need to turn this into a table. So step one here is just convert this into a table. So that's going to be insert tables. Just tell it that's going to be a table. And yes, our top row are the headers. We no longer need this November file. So now we're going to save this because currently this is a CSV file. We're going to have to switch this over to a .xlsx file. So we're just going to give this a new name. We're just going to call it Summary Analysis 2. And we're just going to replace that file. Okay, so now, as you recall, we want to understand what the difference is in between December and November. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here. And again, this is just kind of a one-off analysis. So obviously you wouldn't want to do this if you were going to try and do a lot of other extensive analyses with this. But I'm going to multiply here. I'm starting with the first of the November date, and I'm going to multiply all this times -1. So values, multiply. So that's what you have to do if you want to multiply a bunch of values by a factor. So you can see now all that is now reduced to -1. And now what we want to do is we want to insert our pivot table. So we're going to go ahead and insert a pivot table from this range. And we're going to put it on a new worksheet. Okay, so here is our worksheet. So we want the part numbers on the rows. So if we just put the extended cost, then there is the difference. So here we can, if we want to, we can change the name of this field to extended cost variance. Then we'll do the same with the units on hand. Same thing. Units on hand. Variance. So there you have it. I mean, this is the delta in between the two values. So now if you wanted to, you could start sorting these. So if you wanted to sort this by the largest variances. Now if you wanted to sort this, it's a little bit easier if I just go in this column and I click here and I tell it I want to sort from largest to smallest, then voila, then I have my top 10. There's the top 10 variances out of the total, the largest changes. So those 10 items increased $320,000 roughly. So of our variance total, that is the biggest piece. Okay, so that's a basic way of figuring out what the period over period variance is. But again, it's not particularly flexible, but at least we can sort it and kind of massage it a little bit more. And just like with any pivot tables, if you wanted to take a look at what numbers were relating to this one cell, you can just double click it and then you can see the absolute values that are in that summation. So let's move on to the pivot table with DAX formulas. All right, now we move on to the last approach, approach 3. So this is where we actually use both Power Pivot and DAX statements to create formulas. So we're going to be creating actually 8 different DAX formulas, not 6 as it says here, but really we're going to set up or create 4 formulas for the extended cost variance and then 4 formulas for the units on hand variances. Consequently, we'll have all total 8 formulas. So this is by far the most flexible and comprehensive example, but it is a little complicated to implement. So we're going to show you a quick little demo of what it looks like here. So here's what the finished product is going to look like. So you can see here we have the part numbers in the first column, and then this column is telling us what month end date this little analysis relates to. So here in this column D, you can see CM means current month. So for December 31, which would have been the current month for this analysis, we had extended cost of $96,731. So the prior month we had $74,241. And so here is the variance. It increased, or positive increase, of $22,489. And then that is a 30% variance. And then over here, these are the units. So units increased from 23,000 to 30,000 and so on and so forth. So you can see here it's pretty robust. It gives you all the information. But the nice thing is in this example, I've actually added in the October results. And what that means is that, as long as each month you add in data, then it will give you a new analysis. So here in November, here it's showing you what the variances were. So in November, you can see we ended with 74,241 because you can see that's the prior month for December. That was the ending for November. And then in October, which would have been the prior month for November, then we had 75,000. So actually inventory went down. So you could just, using the table that we set up, you could continue and add monthly results each month, and then you could look over time and see how the changes were affecting the inventory value, both for extended costs and the quantities on hand. So let's go over and look at how we do this. So here we are back at our data table that we created earlier. I'm not going to go ahead and re-merge this together, but suffice it to say that this is a table. It has both the November and December results in it that you've looked at already, and it is already in a table. But what I am going to do here is I'm going to change the name of this table to inventory results, just to make this a little bit clearer. Okay, so if you don't have this Power Pivot menu option in your Excel file, then I'm going to put a quick video down below, or a link to a quick video down below telling you how to activate this in your Excel model. So this Power Pivot is like another small application that runs within Excel. So first step here is once you have this Power Pivot, is we need to add this data to our data model. So I'm going to go ahead and add this in, and I get another screen that pops up for Power Pivot over here. It looks like this. Okay, and then you can see here, down here, where it says inventory results, that is where the name of the table flows through to this Power Pivot application. I'm just going to go ahead and close this for now because I don't really need to have access into here at this point, but there's a lot of things you can do in there if you don't really know how to use that. So what we're going to go ahead and do is start creating our variables or metrics or measures for the extended cost application or variables. So we're going to go in here, we're going to go into just manage measures. So as you can see, I don't have any measures set up just yet. So the first measure I'm going to set up is going to be called month-end extended cost. Okay, and then this is going to be a function formula. So I'm going to just use the max function because I just want this to return one value per month, and I just want it to be the biggest month. Now, since there's only one value per part number per month, I mean, this is pretty straightforward. I can use max, I could use min, I could use average. I'm just going to get the same number. So depending on how your data is set up, you will want to just have one number per month to make this all work. So here I'm going to put in extended cost, my variable, and if you like, you can click here and check and see that that works out right. You're going to want to format your number. I don't need any decimal points, but I do want commas on it. So that is the first metric. So the next one is the one that is actually a little bit complicated. So on this next one, what we're going to do is using this metric here, we're going to create a formula that goes and retrieves the prior month extended cost. So the way you do that is you use the calculate function. And we're going to want to use the month-end extended cost function that we just created a minute ago. Now this next term is for a filter. This would where you would be putting the filter. Now what we're going to use is we're going to use one of Excel's time intelligence functions, and the one we're going to use is this one called ParallelPeriod. And that requires dates, so we're going to tell it that we want it to look in our table where we have inventory results, and then we have that month-end date. So there's the date we want it to look at. And then what we want it to do is we want it to back up one, and then we want the interval to be a month. So what this is going to do is it's going to go and get the month-end extended cost value for the prior month using the current month's date. It's going to look back 1 month. Now you probably want to drill into this parallel period quite a bit and looking both on YouTube and elsewhere. I'll put a link down here with another video that has some good information on some of these date intelligence functions, but suffice it to say that this is going to give me the prior month for this value. But you could also do it for a year. You could go back 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, whatever you want to do. So depending on how you want to use it, it has a lot of flexibility. Okay, so that's going to get me my prior month value. So now what I want to do is I want to come up with what is the month over month difference in between these two. So that's going to be another measure, and I'm going to call this month over month extended cost variance. And here all we're going to do is we're going to take our month-end extended cost, and we're going to subtract our prior month extended cost. And that's it. That's all we need. So again, we want to make that a number, same format. Okay, and then finally we want a percentage delta. So that's going to be another new formula. So it's going to be the month over month extended cost. I'm sorry, that's going to be the month over month percent extended cost variance. Okay, so again, we're going to use a Excel DAX function here that is the divide by zero function. So this will allow us to come up with another number if we don't have a denominator. Say we have either 0 or null in the denominator, then we can tell it in that alternate result to return either NA or 0 or whatever we want. So in the numerator, we're going to want the month over month extended cost variance. And then that is in the numerator. In the denominator, we're going to want the prior month extended cost variance, right? Because we're trying to figure out what is the variance over the prior month. And then if it doesn't find anything for the denominator, we're just going to have it return a 0. And here, we're going to want a percent. So we're going to scroll down here to the percentages. I guess we got to do a number. I guess it's over here. So, and we'll give it one extra decimal point in the percentage. Okay, so that's it. So now I'm going to quickly go and do the same thing for the quantity amounts each month. So I'm going to stop here for a second. So here we are back again, looking at the formulas that we just completed. We just added the other 4 formulas. And here I've just sorted them by formula name. So you can see here we have the month-end quantity. So this is going to give us the current month quantity on hand. Here's the month-end extended cost, or the current month extended cost. So those are the first two. Then down here you can see we created the prior month extended cost. We talked earlier about this parallel period function, time intelligence function. So there's for extended cost, there's the prior month quantity. So these two will bring the prior month amounts. Then up here we have the month over month changes. So we're just taking and calculating out, taking the current month or month end extended cost minus the prior month extended cost to get the month over month extended cost variance, and then doing the same thing with the quantity. And then in order to get the month over month percentage variances, we're using this divide function, this DAX function, to calculate out what the percentage change is. So it's just taking the month over month change and dividing it by the prior month, either quantity or extended cost. So that's it for the formulas that we need to do this. So now we're going to need to create a power pivot table. Now you can't just create a pivot table using kind of the normal insert pivot table function here, and I'll show you why, because it doesn't bring over the measures here. You'll see in just a second. So you can see over here it doesn't have the measures that we need, that we just created. We have to go to Power Pivot to create this. I'm just going to delete this worksheet here real quick. So here I am back again where we were just a second ago, and I'm going to go to Power Pivot here, and I have to go into this Manage function. Now you're going to see this Manage function, it's going to look a little bit different because now it has all our measures down here at the bottom. So you can see, again, we renamed that table in Excel inventory results, but here are all the values associated with our measures that we just created, and these are against the table in total. So it probably looks a little bit confusing, but kind of what's going on here is that here for the current month, it's telling us what the largest extended cost value is for December. So if I were to filter on December and look at the extended cost, this is going to be the biggest value. Then this is going to be the biggest value for November, the prior month. So that's what's happening here with these variables, and you can kind of drill into these in more detail. But in order to add in a pivot table that has our measures, we go up here and we're just going to add this pivot table in here. And it looks very similar to the other dialog, adding in a pivot table. So there we have it. So now we can go ahead and do a drop down, and you can see all our measures that we just dutifully created are now available to us. So we're going to put the parts on the rows, and then we're going to put the month-end date also on the rows. Now, one thing here that you're going to see is that it has the date here listed underneath the part number. What I wanted to do is list that adjacent to the part number. So what I'm going to do is so here what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the pivot table options here, and I'm going to go to display, and I'm going to select this classic pivot table, which will put the dates next to the part numbers. Okay, and right now I don't really need to see the November date, so I'm going to just filter for December at this point. So now you just see December. Now what it did is it added a second month-end date over here automatically, and I don't need this first one, so I'm going to take that off. So I'm going to again have to click on that. So that's what I want. So now we can start to put in our measures. So the first one we want to put in is our extended cost. So we're going to put in the extended cost. So there is the extended cost for this part number for the month in December. And then we're going to put in the difference in between the prior month. Well, actually, we'll go ahead and put in the prior month extended cost so you can kind of see what it looks like in total. So there's the prior month. And then now we're going to put in the month over month cost variance, which is right here. So you can see there's the difference. And now we're going to put the percentage variance, which is right here. So there you go. So there are all the variances for extended costs. So you see there is the December, November, the difference, the percentage difference, and now we'll go ahead and put on the quantity. So there is the quantity. You can't really see it, but believe me, it's there. We'll see it in a second. So then I'm going to put on the prior month quantity. I'm going to put on the prior month quantity variance and the prior month percentage quantity variance. And now I can just close all this. And there you go. Now you can see what the report looks like. Now, if I bring in November at this point, you can see I only have 2 months in here. If I bring in November, when I bring in November, I don't have any prior month November data. So you can see it's telling me what the November data looks like, but it doesn't have the October because I haven't put any October. But let's add in some October data. So here, just hang on a second, and I'll add it in. Okay, so now we're back again, and we're looking at having added in the October data. Now, it won't show up immediately here, but if you go over here and you go to Power Pivot Analyze, and you tell it to refresh everything, there. Now it went and it pulled in the additional data. So now you can see here on our part that the month-end October data was this 75,471. So for November, that is the prior month balance for November, and then there's November's balance. And then the November month-end balance is the beginning balance for December, so there's that number there. And then there is the December ending balance, and then it creates all the metrics all the way across there. So you can go ahead and you can just filter the October out. But as you add more and more months in here, you can see pretty clearly that you're going to be able to do more and more sophisticated analysis. You can also come up with, if you wanted to, calculating out here with these same measures that I just created, you come up with a way of calculating what both the inventory unit cost and quantity variances are that are driving these dollar variances, because assuming these costs start changing, there's going to be both a cost and a volume component to this variance. But right now, these costs are pretty much the same from month to month, from November to December. So hopefully you found that helpful. If you want a copy of this spreadsheet, just drop us an email and we'll get back to you and talk to you soon.